What's going on? How you doing? Appreciate you tuning in if you're here. Here we are, episode 3. It's me, the bell guy. Y'all know what it is. You know what we're here for. It's all about community. And today we're going to start with another community member, Giants' own community. I would say probably not only underrated but underappreciated when the community consistently supports everybody. Consistently, go look on Twitter. It's there. Consistently doesn't get enough love in my opinion. So today we're gonna make sure there's some love involved, and we're gonna get to know a little about this gentleman right here. Plus, most important thing, post draft show, we're gonna talk football. So football life platform. So without any further ado, because this is not about me, let's get our brother here from the Hitsquad.
What's going on, man? How you doing? I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you being here more than anything else. We got Darius in the room. Darius, another incredible supporter.
Salute.
Darius literally supports everybody. I don't know how
For
Darius
real.
manages the time to support everybody, but they do. So as always, shout out to Darius.
For
So
real.
we got the hit squad in the building, like I said earlier. Underrated, underappreciated. I think everybody in the community should know who you are, what you're about, what you do, because you're out there churning content. You're out there interacting. Most importantly, all I see is positive vibes and support from you. That's all I see all the time. That's important for the community. So I want to make sure the community also gets to know you. So before we get started, who is the hit squad? How do we even get to a hit squad? Who's getting shot up? Who's getting taken out? How do we get to the hit squad?
First of all, I really do appreciate the kind words, man. Like it really does mean a lot. In terms of Hit Squad, actually, it's kind of a homage to my pops. My pops played in like this little football league in our city, nothing too crazy, and they were called the Hit Squad. And he put me on to the Giants. Same with my whole family. I didn't really have a choice. I was kind of born into it, and he for me, man, I mean, when I would think of just at the time as a youngster, just a dominant defensive end, it was my dad, so just I'm very, yeah, that's really where his squad comes from, just giving
That's awesome,
homage to the
man.
old
But
man. So,
it's a lot of not only homage but a lot of love, right? So as you get older, you appreciate those little kind of things. And I think this
for
is a
sure.
way from I guess child to parent type scenario, depending on your relationship. So I think that's really cool, man. That's awesome.
Definitely, man. I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. So tell us a little about yourself. Obviously, I'm going to make the assumption your name isn't actually Hit Squad. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your name? How old are you? Where are you from? Now you've already given us, the tidbit on, I think it's choose. I was born into this, so we know why you're a
Yeah,
Giants fan from that
definitely.
standpoint. But yeah, give us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name is actually Chris. Some of y'all on the YouTube side, especially in the Big Blue crew, shout out the Big Blue crew. Y'all know me by Chris. People on Twitter, though, y'all know me as Hit Squad, which is all good. But yeah, Chris is my name. I'm 26. I'm initially from Starrett City. It's a small city in New York. Excuse me, small city really just in Brooklyn in general. But I've lived in South Florida now most of my life. I go to New York every year. I've really only missed going to New York like 1.5 years, and that was during like peak COVID where no one was really traveling. But yeah, no, just for me, man. I mean, even outside of that, just every Sunday it was my whole family coming to my house watching Giants games. I remember both Super Bowls just because I remember just how much of a big deal it was to my family. Like it felt like a birthday almost having both sides of my family in one house just to see one event that everyone was loving and dying to see. So for me, that was just my real opening to the Giants, and I'm very thankful to have witnessed two Super Bowls. My girlfriend that I love to death, she's a Cowboys fan. So I have that over her. She's never really, if the Super Bowl never aired on TV, she wouldn't know what a Super Bowl is. So yeah, it's a little
So
about me.
was that like a first date question? How did you find that out? And when you did, what was the initial comment on your head? And did she have one? Is she like
Man,
a diehard, or is she really just like friends and family type? So this is just my team.
I would say she's like the in between. Like
Okay.
she's not the diehard where she can be historical with it or nothing like that, but she's
Well,
definitely not just no
I don't think
fly
anyone's
fan.
old enough anymore to be historical.
Oh, facts. Nah. I mean, it's. you got to be like damn near 40s. Thankfully we're not. But it's like for me personally, it definitely was in the first date combo, because I pulled up and I had my little Giants hat. So for me, it's just that's important to me. We've been making it work, and yeah, Sunday's gonna be
On the bright side, she ain't a pigeon. So that's all that matters, right? She ain't a pigeon
yeah,
fan. So
man.
I feel like I can deal with everything but them.
Oh
That,
no,
that,
me too,
would,
me too.
that would probably be like an actual make or break. I know that sounds psychotic, but that might actually be like, I'm just not interested in your personality if that's your thing.
I don't think that's OD, to be honest with you, because
Thank you.
I am
Thank you.
shocked that I'm with someone that is a
Really.
Cowboys fan. To me, like I'm actually very like strict with that. That's the one thing I don't play with, and I know that I might
Mm.
sound a little dramatic, but for me as a fan, how much I love this team, just how I was raised with the Giants. I didn't have friends growing up that were opposing rivals. They could be from other teams outside of the division, but I didn't have any friends that were opposing rival fans. I didn't date anyone that was a fan of the Washington team or a fan of the Eagles or the Cowboys up until now. So
I
it's
grew up. I can't say I grew up. I think I knew one person outside of family, right? I had a cousin who is a Commanders fan, but I don't. I think I knew one kid in college who was like a Washington fan, and that was just really weird because either you were a Giants fan
yeah.
or a Jets fan or an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan because again they still got that base, right?
Hmm.
Never really met any of Commanders fans, if you will. So I mean
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
pretty cool that you're making it work. And you said you're now in South Florida, right? What do you do out in South Florida?
Yeah, so I actually I work from home. But for me, living, just South Florida in general, it's just it's so beautiful. The weather's always nice. You actually have a lot of Giants fans here, believe it or not, and throughout Florida. The main teams, especially in South Florida, it's going to be Miami or like the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes
Yeah.
at a lot of points of time where, just they had a bigger fan base than the Dolphins. Living in South Florida,
Well,
but
we've always heard that Dolphins are like the Chargers or anything in Cali, right? They're fair weather fans. They got other stuff to do. If the
yeah.
football team's doing good, they're locked in. If they're not, they don't really care.
Oh no, and I could vouch for that because really outside of like the last 3 years, you didn't have a lot of Dolphin fans really showing their pride. But the ones that do, which I do know quite a few,
Yeah.
they've been ride or die since day one. But you do have a lot of Giants fans in South Florida. Where I live at now, I actually just recently moved about like 2 hours north. I'm still in Florida, but you have even more Giants fans here, which I absolutely love. And I always tweet this just because I really don't know anyone out here. And I know that there are a lot out here. If there are any Giants fans in the Orlando area, hit my messages. I know that there's Giants bars. I saw them last year. I got
Yeah.
into a couple of them. It was amazing seeing all the people there in blue. And, it felt like I was in New York,
Yeah.
and I'm in Florida. So
We gotta
if you're near
we go
Orlando, let me know.
we're gonna find out how to get that good link going via the Twitter life. So let's talk a little bit. I was lucky enough and grateful enough to be with you during the draft, which
Appreciate it.
again much appreciated for the invite and hanging
Of
out.
course.
So now let's talk post draft. We've had a couple days to digest, right?
Oof. Yeah, we definitely have.
What are the thoughts now? Right, you run 1 through 7. You
Mhm.
run the amount of picks. What is the thought process now? How do we feel? Do we feel exactly how we did initially? Do we feel better? Do we feel worse? Where are we on that spectrum?
So for me personally, I still feel the same. I still think this was, at least right now, a very good draft. I mean, they got key positions of need at good value, and they really didn't have to trade a lot. I know that there were some fans on Twitter I saw that were complaining that we traded a fourth round pick, but in my honest opinion, and I might be in the minority here, but I really do believe that if Jalen Hyatt could stay healthy, he's going to be a dominant player in this league. And to me, I think a fourth round pick is worth that. But for me, man, I mean, to be able to get John Michael Schmitz, Deontay Banks, Jalen Hyatt, all within the first 3 rounds, and a sneaky good pick in Eric Gray. I mean, to me, right there, I got to give a lot of credit to this front office. I mean, we as fans we've come a long way from the Dave Gettleman era, the Jerry Reese era. And
Sure.
right now it's looking good. We got to hope that these players pan out. But one thing's for sure, and I always will say this for as long as, this staff is here, I trust this coaching staff to coach these guys up. And I really do believe that we got ourselves some blue chip players because we've seen what this coaching staff has been able to do with lesser talent.
Of course, and we discussed that. So,
Definitely.
good one. Yeah. So when we talk about value, need, I think you hit all of those more or less early, and even in between the depth. But out of all those picks, who's your, I don't want to say wild card in a negative way, but who's your positive wild card? Who's your, well, this one's going to be the one that probably isn't getting the attention, but this is going to be the one who's going to make a little bit more difference than you expect. I think we all expect that your first three players are more or less day one guys. So
Definitely.
this is
Definitely.
this is probably talking about your other handful of picks. Which one of those guys are going to have an impact that's probably not expected as much?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think a player like Jordan Riley, out of Oregon, I really do think that we addressed a key position in need in the interior this offseason. And we did it in a way where, when we brought in, past players, whether that was, I'm not remembering his name at the moment. He was big as hell, and he kept getting pushed around. And I know that he was a former first round pick. Uh, I can't remember his name at the moment, but
Justin Ellis? Justin Ellis?
no, I know Justin Ellis we signed last year. It was the previous year before that, in
Oh,
the
okay, sorry.
2021 season. Uh, if y'all know in the chats, definitely let us know. His name isn't coming to
Um,
me at the moment,
it
but
was the big boy from the Browns, right? Big
yeah,
boy.
yeah. But he would
Uh,
he was big and he
Samoan.
would
I would
always
say
get pushed
Samoan.
around.
Yeah, I would say Samoan. I don't want to guess, but I'm assuming kind of
Yeah,
Samoan. I don't want to say Beta Vea, but no,
you
it
know
wasn't
exactly
him.
who I'm talking about, and
Now I
that's
know
and
who you're
that's what
talking about.
matters.
Yeah, now I
I
know who you're
feel
talking about.
very confident with this interior for this defensive line. Getting, obviously Nacho and, being able to really plug in that interior. I mean, I think Jordan Riley could be a developmental player that could, I'm not saying be a starter, but he could be quality depth that we've lacked at least within like the last 2 years, at least since Dalvin has left the building. And I really do think that he could be fairly solid, at least in run defense. He's smart. Guys of his size really, they're not in the seventh round, and in my honest opinion, knowing the coaching staff that we have, again, I really do trust that they'll be able to coach this guy up. I'm not going to put high expectations on him that I think that he could be a starter.
Sure.
But if we're talking about a solid rotational piece, being what we're viewing like Nacho, where that's like a nice rotational piece, I think he could potentially be that kind of a player. Now, another player, and he technically doesn't count because we didn't draft him, but we did draft him, is obviously that undrafted free agent, Bryce Ford Wheaton out of West Virginia. I think
Yeah.
potentially, man, I think that could be a sneaky good pick in a crowd in a very crowded wide receiver room right now. So it's going to be kind of hard. He could be a nobody. He could be a David Sills 2.0. He is a big body wide receiver, but I think he could be
Also
more
from
than
West
that.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Also from West Virginia. So
So I don't. If David Sills is on this roster for another season, I might lose my mind. If I'm being honest with you,
that's
but
very interesting, right? That's very interesting. You have the David Sills army, which would probably murder the entire world for him.
they
And
would.
then you got the non-David Sills army is, why is this guy still around? You really have those
Yeah,
two schools of thought, and it seems like there's nothing in between, which I find pretty funny. Um, yeah,
it's
he just can't.
for me.
He's
I don't
really
dislike him.
he's not that fast. He can't really separate. I love the heart and effort. I'm not knocking it, but
Same.
in a game, he got a couple opportunities. He just wasn't able to do much. I remember one of those. He had like a very easy drop, and you're like, "Ooh, you're not gonna get all these chances, buddy. You
Yeah, no,
can't really."
I
You
agree.
know, you unfortunately don't get the opportunity. It's unfortunate, but guys who are at the bottom of the roster, when you get your chance, you're not allowed to make a mistake. Unfortunately, it's not. You're not going to get the second chance. You're not going to get the slack.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And we saw early in the season last year, there was opportunities that, Sills wasn't able to capitalize on, opportunities that Marcus Johnson wasn't able to capitalize on, but now looking at this wide receiver room with how crowded it is, I mean, bringing in a guy like Wheaton, I mean, I really do think that we're potentially looking at a guy that maybe not this season, but maybe next season as we start building this wide receiver core more, could be a nice depth piece. I've
Yep.
seen some people say he's a poor man's DK Metcalf. And I mean, I could understand it, but at the same time, I don't want to get my hopes that high up
Sure,
because,
sure,
again, he
absolutely.
could be another David Sills. I hope
Always,
he isn't,
always,
though.
yeah, always.
I hope he isn't.
Expectations for late rounders in UDFA naturally should be low. There's a reason it ends up there. Yes, there's always that diamond in the rough, but that's few and far
Definitely.
in between. But shout out to Sean. He said, about Ford Wheaton that he got, if you saw the contract, right, he got a pretty
He did.
penny. So there's definitely belief in I need to keep you around. I want to develop you. There's something I see here, which
Yeah.
again, for me is exciting as for you because we like the coaching staff's ability to do so. So shooting back on Jordan Riley real quick, and we'll come back to BFW. Shooting back on Jordan Riley, they seem to be adding a lot to the DT line. Does he even get snaps? Is he going to be special teams? Where do you see him getting reps between everybody else that was mentioned? Right. So you got Dexy, right?
Hmm.
You got Leo, all right. Behind that now you got Ashawn, right?
Yep.
And on top of that you got Nacho.
Hmm.
Is he now the fifth guy, or does he even get to the fifth guy if DJ Davidson's healthy? Even though they're kind of the same thing, I don't know. But when do you see him getting snaps?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I could see him being the fifth guy. Look, I'm not the biggest DJ Davidson fan, and for me personally, I do agree. I do think they are similar players, but knowing that now Joe Shane has an idea of what Wink Martindale wants
Sure,
in his
sure.
scheme now, I
Yep.
do think that this could be a guy, especially when you look at Andre Patterson, that could be coached up. And I don't want to put high expectations on him,
Mm-hmm.
but I think when you look at what he did in Oregon, especially in the run, he could be a nice depth piece. I mean, I think he could be on special teams. He could be in a rotation where God forbid, let's say a player like Leonard Williams is who dealt with that neck injury last year is missing some time, and you got Nacho or you got Ashawn starting. He
That's
could,
true.
see time there.
Sure.
But at the same time, I also don't want to see Dexter Williams on the field as much as he was. Just because I think there was times where he would place, just
He was
so
gassed.
many snaps, and we
Yeah, he
needed him
was
on the
gassed.
field. We
Yeah,
needed him.
absolutely. Yeah.
He won us games, which
Yeah.
I'll always be grateful for. But at the same time, I don't want to wear him out. I want to be able to have a nice, healthy rotation like we did during our Super Bowl eras. And in my honest opinion, again, I think he could be a nice quality depth piece within the next 2 years, maybe
Yeah.
three.
At that point, absolutely. At that point, like you said, they're betting on physical traits. This guy's massive,
Yeah,
absolutely massive. And if
huge.
Wink says, "I want this guy," I feel like you go and get that guy. We
Absolutely.
have a good understanding, at least inside out, that between Shane and company, they actually want to listen to, and they're actually listening to what their coaches want, as opposed to maybe a little bit later, where we've heard that GM versus scout versus coach is going back and forth because they can't come to a consensus.
Right,
So,
right.
so it's good that everyone's kind of getting on the same page.
Yeah,
Shout out to
no.
coaches in the building. Shout out, coach. Appreciate you
What's
being here.
going on, coach?
Great supporter. We
And
already know that Chris is aware of you and knows you, so it's always good. Appreciate you coming through.
definitely. And Zayn, I want to throw this player out here too. I know
Sure.
you asked for one player, but I got to give you another one
No,
just
man, this is
because.
your platform. Whoever you're excited about, let us know.
Perfect, perfect. I mean, look, I am really excited for Eric Gray out of Oklahoma. I really do think that he could potentially be that RB2 this season, by at least by the halfway point of this season, replacing Matt Breida. I really do think that he could be that guy that can take the load off of Saquon Barkley, which we need at this point. I don't want to have him on the field too much. He's another player like Dexter that I don't want him on the field too much, like we've seen in recent years. And in my honest opinion, I think that he hits the hole well. He's shifty. He has some special teams experience, so I'm sure we'll see him there. And I think that he could get the gritty yards. He's a smart player. He's not the fastest player, but again, he's not slow either. I don't want people to think that he's this, Gary Brightwell of a player who's. I've been saying this, and I'm gonna keep saying this. I love Gary Brightwell as a person, but God, that man is slow as hell.
Hmm.
He is very slow. And one thing that the Giants did this offseason was add speed. And I'm not saying again that he's going to be a burner, but I mean, when I look at him, I mean, I get very excited knowing that, when we saw towards the ending of the season last year, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell getting some nice chunk runs in this offense that we know that Saquon Barkley probably would have gotten bigger yards from. It gets me excited seeing Eric Gray on the field, because if we're building this offensive line well, which it looks like we are doing with adding John Michael Schmitz, it's only going to add more holes for these running backs. And adding John Michael Schmitz on this line, it's only going to help this interior. Now let's hope that Joshua Izudu and Ben Bredesen or Mark Lewinsky at least step up in the interior. But I'm very excited to see what Eric Gray can do in the opportunities that he'll be having this offseason. This season
Yeah,
coming up.
absolutely. I think Eric Gray is probably my favorite pick too, simply because I'm kind of on the same boat. My last mock, I had the opportunity to draft him in the fifth, and I picked him right at 172. So that was fun for
Yeah,
me. Just
yeah, that
ended
was
up
awesome.
being that way. But I thought he was the best of the bunch available. I actually jumped into a space the other day, and man, the Eric Gray discourse to me was excessive. I couldn't believe how much time people were spending talking about Eric Gray. It was,
Yeah.
and it wasn't really good. And I was like, why is everybody so crazy about Eric Gray? Oh well, because so and so was there. Okay, I understand, but
Okay.
they're comparable players, right? It's not like Adrian Peterson got missed on and then you picked up Eric Gray, right? I don't think
Definitely.
anything was missed at that point at 172. There were some pieces there. He's a three down back. I don't see the issue. He can catch the ball. He
Hmm.
like I said, he's got patience. He's got decent vision. One cut and just goes. He's not 4-4, but he's not slow at all.
No,
So I
you're right.
like him. I like him in multiple ways. I like him in the sense where I know it has nothing to do with Saquon's contract situation. However, if that becomes an issue, I feel like he's a viable replacement. You've heard people refer to him as kind of the Miles Sanders guy,
Hmm.
Clyde Hilaire Edwards. You've gotten these Edwards Hilaire, my apologies, and you've gotten these different comps for him, and I was like, why would anybody be mad at those?
You
And
can't
let's,
be.
and let's not forget
You
this
can't
little.
be.
Let's not forget this whole thing about cost control, right? Nobody brings
Hmm.
up cost control. Now I got a running back, a dual running back for the next 4 years.
On
Very
the
cheap.
cheap. Yep.
That's what it's supposed to be, right? Is that
Hmm.
not the formula for successive teams or sorry, successful teams? So that
No, it
was a
definitely is.
really good pick. The other pick that's kind of exciting is also Trey Hawkins. Trey Hawkins is an
Yeah.
interesting pick because of those last guys again. If you remove Eric Gray, and I would say even JMS because JMS isn't like the greatest athlete, if you will. He's a little
Mhm.
bit outlier from the athletic side, but outside from that, they bet on physical traits and
Absolutely.
athletes. Trey Hawkins, a heck of an athlete. The safety Owens, heck of an
Hmm.
athlete. So it'll be interesting how they work into and they start replenishing some of these guys and start bringing up their depth. So I think they're really, really all exciting players. Now, as a kid, who was your favorite draft pick? Now, do you remember you're sitting there, this guy got picked, and you just lost it? You're like, yes, I needed this in my life. Do you have a memory like that with any draft?
Yes, I do, and there's going to be some Giants fans that may be upset, but I'm
Is
sorry.
it Eric Flowers?
He's still one of my favorite Giants of all time,
Is it
man.
Eric Flowers? He's from Miami?
No,
Oh, I thought I could
nah,
sort of guess.
it was Odell. When
Okay.
Odell got
I don't think
drafted, man,
no one's gonna be mad about
I
that.
was excited, man. But no, you'll be surprised. There's some people that when you even speak Odell's name, they're just like, why are you even talking about him? He's not even on the team. I'm just like, man, I can't not talk about him like he's not considered, at least to me, in my honest opinion, he has to be one of at least in that conversation for a giant great when you look at him statistically, what he did on the
Yeah,
field, at
it's
least
Amani
comparatively to Amari.
Toomer, right? It's
Mhm.
Amani Toomer. It's Odell and Plexico. They're
Yep.
in that. Sure, Plexico's got the championship, so I can't really knock it. So obviously, you would probably put him right above. But like I said, statistically, he's right there.
What Odell did in his first 4 years,
Oh, not to cut you off, but shout out
hopefully we can have
Becca's in the
someone.
house. Always want
Yep.
to shout out. Always want to shout out Becca because
Was
again, one of the
good. What
best
is good,
supporters there
Becca?
is. So always give a shout out to Becca. She's the best, man. But yeah, so
Nah, definitely.
you were going back to Odell was your pick. So what did you like about him out of LSU? Because you know what, I wasn't expecting that pick in 14.
Yeah.
What was it,
So
11? 11 or 12?
12. No,
12, right?
12. Yeah.
I wasn't
So
expecting that pick in 14. That caught me a little off guard.
no, I wasn't expecting it either, but I remember for me personally, one of my friends at the time was a diehard LSU fan, and he would talk about him. He would talk about Jarvis, just like talking about how they were going to be the next 1-2 in the league. And I remember watching him like at the time, like the YouTube highlights and thinking, there's no way my team's going to get him. But if we did, he's going to elevate. I thought at least he would elevate Eli where Eli was at that time in his career. And we saw that when Odell came in, even coming off injury, man, I mean, he was just a dominant force. I think a tie for me was also Saquon Barkley because I wanted Saquon Barkley offer it. I had no problems drafting him where we drafted him. I understood people wanted Quentin Nelson, but for me, I still do believe that he is a generational talent.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real knock on the talent. I don't think the talent's ever been a question. The Saquon debate's always been at running back value versus
Mm-hmm.
where he was drafted. I think that's really the conversation. If you're going to try to sit there and tell me he's not good or, he, isn't that elite tier of running back, I don't know, man. To each their own. I wouldn't
Yeah,
probably argue
but
that.
you
It
know,
is what
Zane,
it is.
there's people
He
that
is
treat him
that
like he's
good.
Orleans Darkwa. Like there's people that treat
Yeah.
him like he's Paul Perkins, and I
Shout out
just
to
don't
Orleans
understand it.
Darkball catching a stray bullet from his squad here.
I'm
Um,
sorry, Orleans. I liked
well, he was
Orleans
the
while he
last
was here.
26, right? I think he was a
He
26
did.
before
He
Saquon was
he
Orleans. So
he
shout out
did.
to Orleans Darkball. He had some
But
good runs.
I liked Orleans, but it's like there's people that treat Saquon like he's a regular back. I mean, people
Right.
forget that there was parts in the beginning of the season where Saquon was running out of Wildcat and just dominating on offense, and that was
Yeah.
our offense for a little bit, you know. And I still think that Saquon could be a key piece. Obviously, you know his situation. We're hoping that they're going to come to a deal. We'll see. But in terms of excitement, for me, it's definitely Odell.
Yeah.
Saquon's a close number two, but for me,
Right.
when we got Odell, man, that was the quickest I went and like got a jersey. That
Yep.
was the quickest I went and got a jersey,
You got
man.
another compare, Sean saying they act like he was Darrell Scott. I think Darrell Scott was a seventh rounder or sixth or
Yeah,
seventh, late seventh.
man.
Same thing though, but yeah, that's the treatment, right? I understand running backs are replaceable. I get it. I say it all the time. Yep, you replenish them, you do all that, great. Even get a lot of Saquon discourse when I say, hey, you can't pay him that much. Well, you can't act like he's a regular running back. I fully agree.
Yep.
Even with that, I can't pay him that much, right? So now we're talking about financial risk assessment, salary
Mm-hmm.
cap. It's now the business, which is so unfortunate.
Definitely.
But do you really want a Zeke contract? Do you want an Alvin Kamara contract? Do you want a CMC? Where have either of those guys won you a chip or gotten you closer to a chip? Maybe CMC definitely helped them. I'm not going to knock. CMC definitely helped the Niners. Did he
Yep.
get him up the hump?
Nah.
No.
Nah.
Alvin Kamara's second contract has been god awful because of injuries. Right? It's a tough position. It's a tough
Yeah.
position. It's a tough market. It's a tough industry. So whatever that decision is going to be, I'm glad I don't have to make it. To be perfectly honest with you,
You and me
but for
both.
me,
You and
it's
me
just
both, man.
it's rough.
But
So
Zane, I can't look. I am one of Saquon's biggest supporters, man. I'll fight for Saquon, but at
yeah,
the end of the day, I'm also realistic too. I also understand that him and his representatives did turn down Joe Shane's offer twice, and unfortunately, because of how the market went, which I don't think a lot of people were going to predict it was going to go that low, for the running backs, but it didn't work out in Saquon's favor. They're saying that they may resume contract talks or that they are resuming contract talks. We'll see. I think it's going to be the equivalent to two franchise tags. I think that's what a lot of people are kind of seeing at this point. It could be at around that number, but yeah, you make a solid point. I mean the evidence is out there. And even with Kamara, I mean, Saints fans, and I know quite a few of them, they'll tell you that he's worth the money, but it's like they run the poor man to the ground,
yeah.
and they're seeing the results of it, on top of the contract. So, you
Everybody's worth the money until they don't produce, and then nobody's worth the money, right? That's how it usually
absolutely,
goes. It's like, oh yeah, that contract's fine, and then no production. Well, that contract's like, look, man, hindsight is what it is.
definitely,
A lot of these contracts, especially when you're young, is future projection. That's what QBs get paid off of. They get paid off of future projection. They don't get paid for today. Nobody would accept that, right? Not in a league of production.
very true.
So I can't see anything past like 333, man. 3 years, 33. I don't know if you can go over that 11. No, if
I
10 is
can't.
the tag and they already rejected 12, I don't see how you go even back to 12. It's got to be somewhere between 10.11 max. And after that, even I'm just like, okay, give them a little bit
Yeah,
more guaranteed if there's a relationship type thing we want to do. But guess what? Joe Shane isn't from this family, right? He doesn't operate like he's connected to a Giants family in the way that there has to be either nepotism or he has to do favors. He operates from a business mind in that standpoint, right? He's the outside guy who's now ingratiating himself inside.
You're
So
right.
I like the way he plays business, and hey, listen, I'm all for it.
Oh, I love
So
it. I love it.
Odell was your guy. Do you have a memory of like the worst draft pick where you picked it and you just like threw the phone? Was it Daniel Jones? That was a lot of people.
No, no. Actually, I wasn't upset
A
with
lot of
Daniel
people.
Jones.
I was confused with Daniel Jones. Not as upset, but more confused.
Yeah, I was confused because for me, I know people wanted Josh Allen. I actually wanted Dwayne Haskins. For me,
Understood.
but at the same time, I didn't get upset at it at all. I saw,
Sure.
that there was potential with them. I saw that we were getting someone that was athletic, unlike, obviously rest in peace, Dwayne, but unlike Dwayne Haskins,
Sure.
who really wasn't a mobile quarterback. But I'm very happy, obviously, with the Daniel Jones thing. In terms of a pick that I was, man, upset with, truthfully, it was DeAndre Baker. Just because we traded away Odell, I still had that sour taste in my mouth. We go and sign an aging Golden Tate. And then on top of that, I'm saying to myself, okay, you still have DK Metcalf, AJ Brown on the board, Terry McLaurin. I mean, you have players on the board. Okay, we're trading up. We're gonna get one of these guys. We're gonna get a weapon for our new quarterback, and we get a corner, which, hey, I mean, our luck as Giants fans hasn't been too well. We're getting corners in the first round, hoping Mr. Banks changes that. I believe
Money,
that he
money in the
will.
banks. Money in
He
the
will.
banks.
He
It's
will. The
happening.
money is in the bank. The
Yeah.
bank is closed on Sundays. But for me, man, it was definitely DeAndre Baker. Not because of who he was as a player or even just him overall. It was, for me, I really felt that if we were going to trade back up into the first, seeing the talent that was at the wide receiver position that was still on the board, I thought the smart decision would have been to go get your Odell replacement. And man, if we could have had AJ Brown or DK, shoot, even Terry McLaurin on this roster right now, I mean, I think we'd be in a really good spot.
Possibly, I'm with you, but I also feel like the scenario where you're not wrong. I'm absolutely taking the talent. I also feel like that whole Joe Judge staff was just ruining players.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I
you're
was
right.
saying, I just think they were ruining players.
You're right.
And I forgot a specific athlete. A lot of athletes have said this, right? You know, a coach can ruin you as a player.
Yeah.
It can absolutely ruin you. And you know
Jason
what?
Garrett. Sorry, I didn't want to mention it. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
yeah. I mean, shout out to Jason Garrett. He's responsible for Andrew Thomas. I don't care what anyone says. The
You're right.
reports are
You got
out
a
there.
point
They're
there.
out there. If it was, I'm willing to bet if it was up to Gettleman, he would have drafted Mekhi Becton. I'm almost willing
Some.
to put some type of a wager on that would have been his pick. But shout out to Jason Garrett for saying, you know what? I think that is my Tyron Smith of the future. I think that's my guy.
Okay. Okay. I like that. The reason why I gasped for a quick second was I can't believe I forgot this. I was actually upset. Not that Philly traded up and took Devonta Smith, but
Yeah,
that we traded back while Micah Parsons was on the board. I wanted Micah Parsons. I banged the table for Micah
that's
Parsons.
fair.
And now I gotta watch this man twice a year and watch him
Yeah,
just
yeah,
dominate the league when
yeah.
he should be wearing Giants blue. I think of that picture of him and Pat Graham, and Pat Graham is like analyzing him, and Joe Judge is looking at him. And I'm just like, this man's a Giant. He's going to be the next dominant edge rusher that we have. And what do? We trade down. And I'm like, you know what? All right. I was pissed. I was
Yeah,
pissed,
I believe it. I believe
and
it.
I was like, all right, we're going to trade back.
And those
It's all
picks are
good.
always those
But
picks are always worse when they go to the division, right? So we
yeah,
were we were together on the draft show, and how many times did I mention the name Nolan Smith throughout the night? Like, you know
yep,
what? I was like, hey, look at
yep.
Nolan Smith because he was really. I mean, I love Banks, no knock on Banks, but I'm just as inclined to go edge as I am cornerback because it's a premium position and it's a game difference position, right? It makes a difference in what happens. And of course, I was happy for Nolan Smith throwing through. I was like, look, he's right there. And he goes to the hellhole that is Philadelphia. So,
Isn't it lovely?
those always just suck where they end up. But Sean is kind of where I am, right? This was my WTF moment. It was definitely Eli Apple. The
Man,
run made, right? Jerry Reese has all these leaks in the building. I don't know if he's the leak or whatever. We have all these leaks. you get jumped twice. You get jumped for Leonard Floyd, you get jumped for Conklin, and you end up reaching for Eli Apple at 10. Extreme reach. And Sean nailed it, right? He was
God,
absolutely a project, very, very young. And right, Laramie Tunsil was right there, right
yeah, right
there.
there, staring us in the
And
face.
part of that might be that whole Giants way that, oh, character, I don't know, not worth it type scenario.
For
Same thing
sure,
with Bill Judge, Micah Parsons, oh, character might be right there, we don't know. So yeah, I
it
can't say what
hurts.
the thought processes, but yeah, those are definitely rough. So looking forward now, you went 9-7-1,
Mhm.
struggled against the division. What is the future projection with this influx of talent? Are you expecting 10 wins, 11 wins? Are you expecting, hey, listen, every season is different. Yeah, we have an influx. I just want to be competitive. We should still make the playoffs. What is your expectation of influx of talent versus output? Can you make it too early for you?
So for me personally, I mean, last year I had us at around 9 wins. Actually, that's on video. Y'all could go check that on my YouTube channel. I had us at 9 wins. There was some people in our Big Blue crew that had us at 10 wins, 11 wins, and I
I
understood
was at
why.
10.
And I understood it completely. And the fan in me is always going to believe that we're going to have a very good year, but then there's obviously the realistic side to me. I do think, looking at the NFC right now, looking at their schedule, and looking at the talent that they added, I have them going to the playoffs this year. And I might get called crazy. I might get called a homer, but I have this team as an 11 team win. I
Okay.
really do. I think another season under this Brian Dable offense, this team got faster. They addressed key positions of need. Saquon is going to be healthy. I mean, we now have a better run defense now. We have a better linebacker in Bobby Okereke. I'm very excited to see Deontay Banks now. That's a huge improvement over Fabian Moreau, Nick McLeod, who, hey, there was moments last year where they looked pretty good. And if they're looking good in this scheme, I sure as hell know that Deontay Banks is going to look at least pretty good in this team. Obviously, I'm expecting
Absolutely.
rookie bumps, but and I just think that this is a team that is headed in the right direction. I think that for once we are aligned as a not just as a fan base, because I think a lot of fans right now, we all kind of feel the same thing, that this team is in good hands, that this team is, we're headed in the right direction. We have the coach, we have the general manager, we have the scouts, is what it's looking like. We have the offensive coordinator for right now. We have the defensive coordinator for right now. It's looking good. It feels very good to be a Giants fan. But obviously, Philly's going to be the cream of the NFC. And if you want to make any noise, you're going to have to go through Philly. And you're going to still have to go through Dallas. I hate Dallas, and I don't respect their quarterback, but I still
I
acknowledge
don't respect the quarterback.
I don't respect their quarterback.
Okay.
I
Is it is
refuse to
this
respect
are
their
we getting
quarterback.
personal or are we talking professional?
Nah, professional.
Okay, fair
For
enough.
me, it's professional. I personally,
Hey, listen, sometimes you get to know people off the field and even personally, you're like, oh, you know what? I don't like the way this person
oh
moves. So
no,
it could be
absolutely.
both. It could be both.
No, you're absolutely right.
Like
I've never met a
we know notable wife beaters. We know notable
yeah.
I mean, murderers, if you will. Like I'm not messing with that guy off the field personally and professionally. I don't mess with you.
Yeah, nah, for me, Dakota
Not a knock on
Prescott,
Dak, by the
it's
way. There's nothing about Dak beating anybody or killing anybody, so I'm not
nah,
making
nah,
that
nah. He's off the field a very good person. My girlfriend tells me all the time. She calls him Captain America Prescott. It's, I guess, a common thing with these Cowboys fans. They have a lot of
sure,
love. But on
sure.
the field, man, I just think that, and I will forever stand on this. I think that if you would have changed Jones's situation and Prescott's situation compared to what Prescott had in his early career and what Jones had in his early career, I think Dallas would have had a lot more success as a team. And I think that Dak wouldn't have had a lot of success like Jones did with the roster, with the offensive line that we had, with the, uh, I guess you could say, I mean, nah, I thought the defense was pretty good under Patrick Graham, but still, or even James Betcher, with that bad of a defense that we had over there. I just would take Daniel Jones, and I will.
Sure.
I've been criticized for it. I will remain criticized for it, but I do believe that Daniel Jones is a better quarterback. than Dak Prescott. That's
Certainly
all I'm
last
saying.
season, certainly last season, you can make a case because I felt like last season was a little bit of a downfall for Dak.
But
Normally,
even
I think
like,
he's better than he
I,
was
I
better than he
understand.
was getting credit for. But last year, I think he deserves all the criticism he got. Right? There was a little
Could you,
shift last
but
season
Zay,
specifically.
not to cut you off, but could you
Yeah.
imagine Daniel Jones with an Amari Cooper? Could you
Yes.
imagine Daniel Jones with a CD Lamb?
Yeah.
Shoot,
Yeah.
even a an aging Des Bryant we saw was pretty good with Dak Prescott. Could you imagine Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones with that elite offensive line that Dak
Yeah, yeah,
had his
absolutely.
first
Listen,
3 years?
your supporting cast matters as much as
Oh, it,
everything else.
it
So I'm with you.
does.
Like I
It
said, I
does.
think you're right. Year two, I expect the playbook to be opened up. I like Kafka, right? I like Dayball. I like what they're building towards. Hopefully, if they have a little bit more horses in the race they're running, it'll be better for them to open it up. Big thing's going to come down to, draft class production. What is last year's class going to do?
Right.
Does Kayvon take a step up? Does Neil take a step up? Does Flop beat out my guy Durag Darnay, or is he still the one? Durag Darnay is my guy, man.
I
He's
love
either
him, man.
hit.
I love
He's
him.
either hit or miss, and that's why I love and hate him because when he makes a play, you're like, "That's great," but 9 out of 10 times he's not making that play. It's usually a
You're
miss more than a hit.
God, you are so right. And you know what, man? Listen, don't sleep on Flop, man. Fear the
I'm not.
Flop.
He's my guy. I'm convinced. Like, I was
Don't sleep
100%
on him.
wrong. I was 100% wrong on Thought last year when they drafted him. I was like a slot guy at like 145, 160, whatever he was. But I mean, his read and react instincts were showing immediately. I was like, oh, he's nice. And then as the more I watched him, I was like, oh, he's really nice. I'm happy to
Dang.
push him out. I'm happy to push him out to cornerback too. I would have happily been
Oh,
like,
me too.
let him. Next year, I'm more than happy because it doesn't look like they're leaning towards the Dory coming back, at least right now. It doesn't
Yeah,
look that way. So if
I agree.
Banks is your one, I'm not sad about Flott being two at all.
No, no. And you know what? Flop put on weight this year. I mean, he looks bigger. We saw what he did as a rookie, clamping down AJ Brown, who
Yeah.
at least in limited moments,
To
at
an
least,
extent, sure. But like
you
I
know,
said, I love the read and react, and he plays physical and not scared. Now,
yeah.
you saw some of the knocks on him, right? You saw the small hands. That drop
Hmm.
interception in Minnesota that's kind of that base a little bit. But yeah, I think a lot of dependency for next year is going to come on. What does your previous class do moving forward? Let's even talk about other guys who just aren't seeing the field. Aaron Robinson, what are you contributing? Ellison Smith, what are you contributing?
Yeah.
These are still guys that are part of a class. Granted, not a Joe Shane class, but still part of a class that need to do something. We can't just say, well, everyone's been replaced in a 2 year span. That's not how it works.
No, you're
So
right. You're right.
let's see how the contributions come. So yeah, definitely excited about next season. So tell me this, Giants community, Giants Twitter specifically. What do you like about it? What's your enjoyment there in that world?
Man, my enjoyment in the Giants Twitter sphere. Well, nah, man. I mean, I think the Twitter sphere is really awesome, man. You have some really good content creators on there, just really some amazing people on there. I have met some amazing people through Giants Twitter, man. I met you through Giants Twitter, which is awesome.
Been a pleasure, man.
You are really good people, man, and I mean that
I
from the
appreciate
heart.
that.
And I just I love seeing people talk about this team because I know that they share the same love that I have for this team. We all want the same thing, despite whether you're a Jones hater or a Jones lover, a Barkley hater, a Barkley lover. We all want to see this team hold up a Lombardi. And I mean, I love how regardless of what happens, I see people go at each other neck to neck all the time on my timeline. Even if it gets personal, I see people still interacting, with each other. I really do appreciate how gritty this Giants fan base is because they be on some nuts shit. Oh, excuse my language. They be on
No,
some
no,
nuts
this is
shit.
your
You
platform,
know,
man. This is
they
your
be on
platform. You
some
say what
nuts
you
stuff,
got to say.
man. There's definitely some that I'm just like, I need to take your phone away or your computer, whatever you just tweeted this on. Like you do not
Yeah.
deserve the privileges to tweet again. But there's definitely a lot, man, that I love, and there's so many that I'm looking forward to working with. I have this. I guess you could call it tidbit on my channel where we have people come on actually from Twitter. We were doing that last year a little bit, but also getting people from other teams as well that were content creators, both Twitter, both on YouTube, and just getting to know people, getting to know their fandom, getting to know their thoughts on the Giants. I learn a lot. there's a lot of people that I've learned from on Twitter, and that I'm very grateful for, man. So yeah,
Excellent. All right, two more, and I'm gonna let you go. I want to keep you
sure,
all night. I
sure.
know you're a busy man. So just like what you enjoy, what what just annoys you the most about the Twitterverse or the Twitter community? What really grinds your gears, if you will?
Uh, for me, and I definitely had to learn how to uh, respond back to people throughout the years. Because for me, when you got some egg profile coming at you crazy under your tweet, where you're giving a take or just a thought process, at first, I would definitely get defensive or whatnot, but now, for me, I'm just like, I don't even care. Most of the time, I just kind of like laugh at it. I just take it as a joke. Uh, but for me, it's definitely. I think there's just some people that, regardless of the facts that you provide to them, it doesn't fit their agenda. It doesn't fit what they believe, and that's fine. It's annoying to me, but like it's fine. I've come to learn that you're just not gonna please people. I saw people. I think you and I can agree this was a very good draft by Joe Shane, right?
Yeah.
I saw people that were complaining about this draft. I don't know how you're complaining about this draft, but there was people
Well,
complaining about this.
I would say I can see mid-round late complaints. I can see complaints in the why trade up in the scenario of we need more players, don't give away the draft pick, that scenario.
Sure.
Not so much of the trade up for the player in itself. So I can see viable complaints, but like you said, I can't see the harping either, right? I'm not
Yeah.
killing them for those picks just because it's not the one I wanted at that time or they didn't select what I want at that time. So 100% with you. Try to be, as objective and unbiased as possible. But I'm with you. They can really grind you out there. But yeah, the smart thing to
Oh,
do
for
is just
sure.
go about your business. So worst, and this is at any point in your time, worst and best giant memory. It could be anything.
Ah,
If you had to link
man.
your best giant memory and your worst one that just kind of flickers to your mind right now, what would they be?
So the worst was actually the Deshaun Jackson game, and I know that a lot of Giants fans say that, but for me,
Go to hell, Matt Dodge.
exactly. Thank you.
Hey, bro,
Thank
if
you.
you see this, I actually don't mean that. But I really dislike you as a player. I don't know you as a person, but you suck.
Nah,
So
you're right. You're absolutely right, and I put my badge on that too, man. You do suck, and if I see you in person, I'm gonna
I'm
tell
gonna
you
snuff you.
suck. And then, yeah, we gonna see what happens after that,
Yeah, yeah.
because I remember that day very very clear because I had to deal with that day after we left the stadium. That was one of the few times that
Oh,
like
you
I
were at
left
the
the state.
game? Oh
I
my
was at the
god,
game
that's
and
got to
like
be a million times worse if you were at the game.
Zayn, when I tell you, when we went back to my aunt's house and like I had to deal with my parents arguing, my father going at it, because my father, he's just like me. I can't stream myself watching a Giants game because I lose my mind when the Giants play, regardless of whether it's a good play, a bad play. I show a lot of energy, I show a lot of heart, despite me being a very calm dude. And I remember, when we lost in that fashion, my dad was just pissed. He was pissed, cursing everything down. He wanted to, man, when I tell you the anger that this man was feeling, and I just remember like it ruined the rest of my trip, in New York. And I'll never forget that day. In terms of the best day, hmm, I would say the 2011 Super Bowl. And for me, that was one of the happiest times like in my life because, that at that point, there was a lot of stuff going on in my family. And I remember that, growing up, when during this time, my family, we were just really going through it, man. And I
Yeah,
know that my father at that point, he was really excited to see the Giants in the Super Bowl again. Same with my mother. And, to be able to spend that time with them and watch it, and to win, man, just to win. I mean, it's an amazing feeling. And again, like I will forever state it, I am blessed to have witnessed to. There are people that I've witnessed for. And
yeah.
I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed, and I know I can only imagine. And I have a lot of jealousy, and I get it. I can't go back in time and ask my parents to have me earlier, but I'm a
Of
little
course.
jealous of people that got to see LT play. I didn't get to see LT play, but like I would have loved to be around during that time.
All right, that's awesome. Definitely interesting memories. The worst one I can definitely Definitely sympathizing. That's one of the worst. My worst memory is still the Super Bowl loss to the Ravens. I don't care what anyone says. That's the worst. I mean, we
Damn.
just got spanked, and I remember watching it, and I was so mad for a very long time. I still hate the Ravens for that particularly. They had great players,
Man,
but that's just one of those where the loss hurt so much more than everything else. So that's definitely my worst one. But yeah, that Deshaun Jackson go to hell, Matt Dodge punt.
that was
Still,
just
still,
to kind
still,
of. I'm
still a
sorry, my
thing.
fault, my fault.
No, no, no. I'm saying I agree with that. That Deshaun Jackson thing just I think we were up like 21, 28. I forgot. It was just ridiculous for that whole thing to even happen the way it did. It was terrible.
Facts,
It was just
facts.
terrible.
No, I was just going to quickly say, that's the one player, and he's probably a very good person. He's a funny dude. I'll give him that. I hate saying that he's a funny dude, but that's the one player, Deshaun Jackson, because of that experience. That as a player and as a person, I got beef. I got legitimate beef with him.
Understood. Yeah, yeah, and
So,
that's fully
like I said, he
understandable.
probably really cool. I probably
It's
could
funny
smoke
because
a
to
joint with him,
me,
but yeah,
it's funny because for me, Jalen Hyatt's comp is kind of a Deshaun Jackson. That's kind of the comp I would give
yeah,
him. I
yeah.
don't know if he'll be that productive right out of the gates. That's not a knock on Deshaun at all, but kind of the comp, and the other one would be kind of like Will
I can
Fuller,
see that.
Jalen Hyatt, Deshaun Jackson, that mix, and I hope they're as productive. So at that point, let people know what are you about, what are you doing, where can we catch you, where do we follow you? Let people know about you.
Yeah, so I actually make New York Giants content here on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube as Hitsquad Productions. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff, especially now that the draft is away. We're going to be doing videos not just covering obviously the Giants, but we're going to be having content creators from opposing teams that we're going to be playing this season coming on the channel, giving you an in-depth breakdown. I love doing it so much. We did that last year for the first time, and it was a success. And the connections and knowledge that I got from that experience was amazing, and the knowledge that you, the listener, will be able to get is really cool too. We're going to be doing a lot on that channel, and you can find me on Twitter too, under Hit Squad Prod, and then I always be forgetting what that is. Y'all know what that is. That line that's like on the
Absolutely.
bottom. Yeah, boom, boom, underscore. There you
There you go.
go. Long day today.
All right, man.
Long day.
Listen, I know you had a work day. You jumped right on. I appreciate you. It was great having you on on the pod just to chop it up. Episode 3, first post draft one. Loved your takes. Very, very interesting to hear. We're going to keep building. Look forward to everything you do in the future. Always going to support because, like I said, very few people, we got a few here, Darius, Becca, very few people are as openly supportive and positive as you are. So make sure you guys go find the Hit Squad, YouTube, Twitter, all of it, and give support and love. Appreciate you being on the show. And like I said, I'll definitely have you back on soon, man.
Definitely, man. And I gotta have you on the channel too. I do
Yeah,
appreciate, your time and the love you showing. I'm gonna always show love to, the Giants Nation, man. We got a good season ahead of us, and I can't wait. Thank you.
it's all about community and positivity. And I thank everybody who did show up today. Appreciate everyone who's going to end up watching. Hey, listen, appreciate it. And whoever's in the comments, I hope that you're going to end up on the show one day too, because I'll definitely have you on. So appreciate everybody. Have a great night, and thank you so much.
Hell yeah. Thank you.